Well, in 1992, you were 46 years old at the time. You got married for the second time
Yes.
to 25-year-old Heidi.
Yes. Heidi Marie.
Heidi, oh, how do you pronounce your last
It's
name?
a German, Heidi Marie. There's a flower.
Heidi Marie.
It's a flower in Germany. Heidi Marie.
Got it. Okay. Why did you decide to get remarried at that point?
Why did I decide to get married? I was lonely. I was, in fact, I'd set up a big yacht at the time. I bought a 48-foot yacht, a really great yacht, and a sailing yacht that I was going to sail to Canada to join the kids because they'd all moved to America. And then I met her, and, one thing led to another, and I decided it was more fun being with her than going off sailing to another country, So I put an end to the sailing, and not totally. I mean, I did go on again later, but and I married, and we had a child, Alexandra, and she's as she describes herself, the favorite child. Of course, they're all favorites, but a beautiful girl, an extremely beautiful girl, and she just left here. She was here until a week ago, and she's at the inauguration yesterday of Donald Trump. Yeah, with Elon at the inauguration.
Well, your second wife, she had a child already when you guys got married.
She had 3 children.
3 children.
Yes.
Okay. And you had how many children at the time, yourself?
Well, I had Elon, Kimball, and Tosca.
So 3.
Yes, and they were all in America by that stage.
Right. It was kind of like the Brady Bunch almost, right?
No, not that many.
Okay. So one of her children, who was 4 years old at the time, was named Jana.
That's right.
Now, later on in life, when Jana was an adult, I guess you were helping her pay her bills and so forth?
No. Heidi Marie and I, or Heidi is for short, we had a good marriage for quite a long time, but she was much younger than me. And I don't know. It's, like with all relationships, I've become quite impressed when somebody tells me that their relationship lasted 3 years or something, but these days. But at any rate, our relationship, didn't last very long. We were married in 92 and we divorced in 94, 2 years later. And so she went off, she married another man, with the new divorce and marriage laws, it was possible to jump around, as opposed to the times of mine, your parents. At any rate, so she married another man. I went off back to sailing, did all sorts of things. And then I met Heidi again in about 99. Met up with her again. Although we had the child, we had a little girl. So I would see occasionally when I was back in South Africa, go and see my daughter Alexandra, who was with her, the mother, her mother. And Ellie had grown quite a bit. And then we started seeing each other in about 98, I think, 98. We started seeing each other again. She divorced from that second husband, that third husband that she had. Her first husband was killed in a car crash. And then we decided to get married again. So we got married again. And then Rose was born in 99. So Rose is now 25. And at that time, her other children that she had been placed with, because she was a woman on her own and didn't have the means. And the man she married was, a very, I'm sure, a very good policeman, but they don't earn a lot of money or anything like that. And so the children were placed in a sort of foster care, her 3 children, And so we got married, and then after we got married and Rose was born, she asked me if we can't bring the children back, her other children, out of foster care, back to join us. So I said, I'll do what I can. And so one by one, by going to courts and making applications and so on, I got all 3 children back, her 3 children. That's 2 boys and a girl. Jana was a girl. And it wasn't shortly after that, in 2002, 2 years after Rose was born, that Elon, I'd been going regularly to the States, and then Elon invited us, said we must come over and meet his new son, that Nevada that he had with his first wife, who was 3 months old. So we went over, and we took everybody, the Rose, Alexandra, and Heidi's 3 other children. 5. There were 7 of us. Went to America, and on the way, when we landed at Raleigh, the airline came to us and said they need to speak to us, and we went and spoke to them. They told us that Elon's son had died the night before, and that they needed to tell us. So it was terrible, you know. Anyway, we continued, and we arrived in LA, and everybody was distraught. I mean, it was a terrible time. And you know, Elon at that point had been renting the penthouse of the Beverly Wilshire, which was a fabulous place to stay. Huge, could take about 4 families. So we all began living in the top floor of the Beverly Wilshire for a while. And then when we were due to leave, Elon and Kimball came to us and said, look, we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay. We don't want you to go back to South Africa. It's too dangerous, which it was. And so after much talking, we agreed to stay with all the children and so forth. And so I started working for, I'll get to the point in a minute. I started working for SpaceX. I was one of the first 9 or so working for SpaceX. They didn't pay me. I just went to do the help to fix things and so forth. And that also took me to the rocket site in Texas a lot. And I was away a lot. And as you probably know, in America, if you like your job, you go as early as possible in the morning and you come back at 10 o'clock at night. And you do that 7 days a week, you know. So that's if you like your job. They all seem to like their job terribly. And so my wife, Heidi Marie, was very upset. And she said if she has to go on like this, she's going to kill herself. So eventually, cut a long story short, we decided to return to South Africa. So we took all the children, and including Jana, the girl you're talking about, and we all went back to South Africa. We got temporary passports. We didn't let the boys know. And we got in the plane and we flew back. We left everything behind, our home. You know, first we lived in Beverly Hills. Heidi didn't like that, so we moved to Malibu. We had 2 acres in Malibu. She didn't like that. So you know, the South African scene is more friendly. You know, people are more sort of at home with each other. In America, people are sort of workaholics, as we found, you know. But at any rate, which is good for America, of course. And so we came back, and we went back 6 months when I thought I was doing the right thing by my wife. Elon and them refused to speak to us. They said, we're done. We're never going to speak to them again because of what we did, because we left the homes, the cars, everything, a boat that I had, everything behind. A big 5-level boat in Marina del Rey. Anyway, so Heidi and I decided it's not working. So I could see things were going bad like they had the first time. So I sued her for divorce in 2004. And so within 2 years again, I was divorced again. And she was on her own. I gave her everything we had here. I still had a few houses here. So I gave them to her, all of them, and a couple of houses and a couple of stands, maybe 3 houses and a couple of housing stands and cash and so on. And I just bought a yacht, and I set off again on ocean sailing, which I did a lot of, crossed the oceans, you know, sailed to Europe from here, crossed the Atlantic a few times, and so on. And I never saw her or the children again until about 2014. Well, of course, I saw her, my ex-wife, if I came back to South Africa, because I'd go and see my daughters. But that's another story. About 2 or 3 years after we got back, Elon and Kimball said, look, surely you want Alexandra and Rose to be here and not be in America, where they're safer. So we all agreed that and Alexandra and Rose should go back. So Alexandra and Rose went back to school, and then Ellie went on to university in Colorado, and Rose continued at school in Colorado with the boys, which is sort of a family agreement we made. As for Heidi's other children, they were growing, and I never really saw much of them. Then in about 2014, I got a call from, an email from Jana to say that she's having a very hard time. She was now about 28, 29 years old, and she'd already had a child, a little girl of 6 or something, and she can't make it. She's just unable to live, and so forth. And the people at the social welfare had taken her child away, and she was living with a man in a storeroom. And so I went to see her, found her, and then saw the terrible circumstances. And I said, well, look, I'm going to give you money for food and toiletries every day. I'll give it to you every day or every week, which I started doing, enough for food and toiletries at first. And then that grew into a little bit more and a little bit more, so that eventually they could live better. And then I got them both a second-hand car, which they could use. And this went on for quite a while. And then in about 2016, I got a call from Jana. I never saw her because we used to send money through the bank, Occasionally might see her, but I mostly didn't go and see her. And then I got this call in 2016 or so from Jana to say that her boyfriend has thrown her out. She's on the street and all her clothes are out on the street and all that sort of thing. And she didn't know what to do. So I said, well, I was living, oh, by the way, Rose had come back because she wanted to do, it was very complicated. She wanted to do her high schooling. She'd finished her primary schooling in Colorado, but she wanted to do her high schooling in South Africa near her mother. Now, her mother lived in a town very close to where I am now, but I had no home. I had no home in South Africa. So Rose, I had to then find a home so that Rose could come back. So in about 2013, I did have this home, which I rented near where her mother lived, and I put Rose in a local school. So that's when Jana contacted me. Jana said she's struggling. She told me what was happening when they threw her out in the street. And then I said, she better come here. Have you still got the vehicle? Yeah, she's got the vehicle. I said, come here. So she brought the vehicle. She arrived here, and she spent the next 3 weeks with us, and with Rose and myself, and we got on really well. She'd grown up into a great-looking woman, and we got on extremely well. And and then after a while she left us because the boyfriend started crying and coming and lying on our doorstep and so forth, crying through the night and all sorts of things like that. So she decided she'll give this bloke another chance. And so she left. And then 2 months later, roughly 2 months later, she contacted me to say she's pregnant. So I said, well, can't be me. She said, well, it is you, because she hasn't been with anybody else. She went back with this chap, but they're just friends. So I said, well, all right. Well, then I wasn't too happy with that. So I sent blood samples. At that time, you could only do it like that, to Canada, and cryogenically, and they confirmed in Canada that the child was 99.9% mine. So he's now 7, he's nearly 8. He's probably the most smartest boy I've ever known. He's smarter than Elon and Kimball were at that age. And I'm very happy with him, and they live here with me. So they've got a little house. She's got a little house of her own, but most of the time she's here. And so we have 2 children now, actually. We have a little girl as well.